Record-breaking storms, catastrophic floods, raging wildfires and deadly heat waves pushed communities to
What is going on?
Suddenly, without control.
From anything normally seen above.
What is that?
Some believed these were signs.
The United States has just experienced a wave of events, so unusual that many people are starting to ask one question: is this just coincidence or something more? Within days, multiple states reported massive insect swarms, violent storms, and strange changes in the ocean. At the same time, shocking discoveries, unexplained sky formations, and growing global tensions are unfolding together. Individually, each event might have a simple explanation, but happening all at once, they begin to form a pattern that is hard to ignore. Some see science, others see warning signs. So, what is really happening right now? Like this video, comment, "I'm watching," and subscribe, because what you're about to hear might change how you see this moment. Across several states in the United States, something unusual has begun to unfold. Reports are coming in from different regions where the sky itself seems to move. Massive swarms of insects, locusts, dragonflies, and other species are appearing in numbers far beyond what people normally expect. Farmers describe fields turning dark as waves of insects pass overhead. In some areas, crops that were healthy just days before are now visibly damaged. Leaves stripped, harvests threatened. What should have been a stable growing season is suddenly uncertain. What makes this even more concerning is not just the presence of these insects, but the scale and timing. These are not isolated sightings. Multiple states are experiencing similar patterns almost at the same time. When events begin to repeat across different locations, people naturally begin to ask deeper questions. Experts point to natural explanations, migration cycles, climate conditions, environmental shifts. And those explanations do matter. But even with science, the feeling on the ground is different. Because when something grows this quickly, spreads this widely, and affects something as essential as food, it doesn't just feel like nature. It feels like a warning. In the Bible, one of the clearest parallels comes from the book of Exodus. A plague of locusts swept across the land, consuming everything in its path. They covered the face of the whole earth so that the land was darkened. They ate every herb of the land and all the fruit of the trees. Exodus 10:15. It wasn't just destruction, it was a message. A moment meant to get attention, to force people to stop and recognize that something bigger was happening. And it doesn't stop there. Another passage reinforces this pattern. What the locust swarm has left, the great locusts have eaten. A nation has invaded my land, a mighty army without number. Joel 1-4, 6. Now compare that image to today. Crops under pressure, food uncertainty rising, and a pattern that seems to be forming, not fading. So the question becomes, are we simply witnessing natural cycles, or are we seeing something that echoes much older warnings? Let me ask you something. According to the Bible, which of the following is often described as a sign connected to major turning points or the end times? A. Sudden abundance of wildlife everywhere. B. Growing peace across all nations. C. Disruptions like famine, natural events, and instability. D. None of the above. Take a moment to think about it. Drop your answer in the comments below. I want to see your perspective. And if you're still watching, like this video, comment, and subscribe, because what comes next may be even more unsettling. As the insect swarms began to spread, another force followed almost immediately: violent storms, striking back-to-back across multiple states. In Texas, powerful winds tore through communities with little warning, leaving behind damaged homes and flooded streets. In Florida, heavy rainfall overwhelmed drainage systems, turning roads into rivers within hours. Along the Gulf Coast in Louisiana, Storm surges and relentless downpours pushed already fragile infrastructure to its limits. What makes these events stand out is not just their strength, but their timing and repetition. Storms are not unusual in these regions, but when they arrive in rapid succession, with increasing intensity, and across different states at nearly the same time, the pattern begins to feel different. Residents describe a sense of unpredictability. Forecasts shift quickly. Storm systems develop faster than expected. In some cases, what begins as a routine weather alert escalates into a severe event within a short window of time. Power outages, road closures, and emergency responses are becoming more frequent, placing pressure on systems designed for more predictable conditions. From a scientific perspective, explanations point to warmer ocean temperatures, shifting atmospheric patterns, and seasonal instability. These factors can contribute to stronger storms and heavier rainfall. Yet even with these explanations, the frequency and clustering of these events continue to raise concern. In the Bible, moments of environmental upheaval are often described as part of a larger pattern of warning and awakening. In Matthew 24:7, it is written, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places." While this verse directly mentions earthquakes and conflict, it is part of a broader passage describing a time of increasing instability where natural and human systems begin to shift simultaneously. The key idea is not a single event, but multiple disruptions occurring together. Storms that intensify, patterns that repeat, pressure building across regions that once felt stable. Looking at Texas, Florida, and Louisiana, a common thread appears. These are places familiar with storms, yet even there, something feels different when events begin to overlap, when recovery from one impact is interrupted by the next. The result is not just physical damage, but a growing sense of uncertainty. When systems are hit repeatedly, resilience begins to weaken. Communities are forced to adapt faster than expected, and the margin for error becomes smaller. Storms have always been part of nature, but when they arrive in waves across multiple states, with unusual timing and intensity, they begin to tell a larger story. One not just about weather, but about pressure building beneath the surface of everything people rely on. As storms continue to strike across the land, attention has begun to shift toward the coastlines, where something equally unusual is happening. Along parts of the United States shoreline, rare deep-sea creatures have started appearing in places they do not belong. These are not the kinds of animals people expect to see near the surface. Many of them are species that normally live far below, in environments defined by darkness, pressure, and isolation. Yet now, they are being found washed ashore or drifting near coastal waters, sometimes alive, sometimes barely moving, but often without visible signs of injury. What makes this phenomenon especially difficult to ignore is the lack of a clear explanation. There are no major storms directly forcing them upward at the time of discovery. No visible trauma suggesting they were chased or attacked. In many cases, the water conditions appear relatively calm when these creatures are found. Scientists suggest possibilities: changes in ocean temperature, shifts in underwater currents, or disruptions deep below the surface. These are valid considerations. The ocean is complex, and much of it remains unexplored. But even with these explanations, one question continues to surface. Why now? And why, in this pattern? Because again, it is not just one isolated incident. Reports are appearing within a relatively short time frame, across different areas. When deep-sea life begins to surface without a clear trigger, it creates a sense that something beneath the ocean may be changing in ways not yet fully understood. This is where the symbolism becomes difficult to ignore. In many biblical passages, the sea represents the unknown, the hidden depths of creation, places beyond human reach and understanding. When the sea gives up what it holds, it often points to a moment of revelation, when things that were once concealed are suddenly brought into view. The idea can be summarized in a simple but powerful phrase: The sea is revealing hidden things. It doesn't necessarily mean destruction. Sometimes it means exposure, a shift, a boundary being crossed. And when creatures adapted to the deepest parts of the ocean begin to appear in the light, it raises a deeper question, not just about biology, but about timing. What has changed below the surface to bring them upward? And if the ocean is beginning to reveal what it once concealed, what else might follow? These moments are not always loud or dramatic. In fact, they are often quiet, subtle, easy to overlook. But taken together with everything else happening from land to sky, they begin to form a pattern that is becoming harder to dismiss. If you're following this closely, take a second to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what comes next as these events continue to unfold.
You attacked Pope Leo on Truth Social.
I don't think he's doing a very good job. He likes
A single image was enough to ignite a global reaction. An AI-generated picture began circulating online, depicting Donald Trump in a pose resembling Jesus. The image showed him surrounded by light, with outstretched hands in a way that many people immediately connected to sacred religious imagery. Within hours, it spread across social media, drawing millions of views and intense discussion. But the reaction was not admiration. It was strong and immediate backlash. Many people, especially within religious communities, saw the image as deeply inappropriate. For them, it crossed an important line between politics and faith. Comments began flooding in, describing the image as disrespectful and even blasphemous. The concern was not just about the picture itself, but about what it represented. At nearly the same time, separate reports began circulating online, describing a moment of sudden tension during a major political event in Washington. According to early accounts, security personnel moved quickly to escort President Trump off stage after what witnesses described as a possible threat inside the venue. The timing of these two moments, one digital, one physical, only intensified public reaction. The situation escalated further when tensions grew between Trump and the Pope. Public statements and responses began to circulate, turning the controversy into something much larger. Trump criticized leadership positions, while the Pope responded with a message focused on peace, urging restraint, and calling for an end to violence. The Pope's message emphasized that faith should not be used to justify conflict, and that leadership should protect human life rather than divide it. This contrast in tone only intensified the debate, drawing even more attention from around the world. What started as a single image quickly became a wider discussion about the role of religion in public life. People began questioning where the line should be drawn between personal belief, political power, and sacred symbolism. For many, the deeper concern was confusion. When religious imagery is used in unexpected or controversial ways, it can blur meaning. It shifts attention away from spiritual truth and toward individual figures, creating division in how people interpret what they see. The Bible speaks about moments like this. In Matthew 24:4-5, it says, "Watch out that no one deceives you, for many will come in my name and will deceive many." This is often understood as a warning about confusion and misrepresentation, especially in times of uncertainty. This is why reactions have been so strong. Because for many people, it is not just about an image. It is about what that image suggests and how it may influence belief and perception. Events like this reveal something deeper happening beneath the surface. Not just disagreement, but growing tension over meaning itself. What is sacred, what is symbolic, and what should remain separate. And when those lines begin to blur, people naturally begin to ask harder questions about truth, influence, and the direction things are heading. I want to hear your perspective. Do you think this was just a harmless image, or did it cross a line? Share your thoughts in the comments below. In parts of the United States, including areas of Kansas, farmers have begun reporting sudden livestock deaths that seem to come without clear warning. Cattle found lifeless in open fields, herds that appeared healthy just days earlier now reduced in number. What makes these reports unsettling is not only the loss itself, but the lack of a consistent explanation. In many cases, there are no obvious signs of widespread disease, no visible contamination, and no immediate environmental cause that can fully account for what is happening. For farmers, livestock is not just property, it is livelihood, stability, and the foundation of food supply. When animals begin to die unexpectedly, the impact spreads quickly, production slows, costs rise, and concerns about food availability begin to surface, even if quietly at first. Experts often point to possible causes such as heat stress, changes in feed quality, or isolated illnesses. These factors can and do affect livestock. But when reports appear across different locations, within a short period of time, and without a single clear source, uncertainty begins to grow. The issue is not only about numbers, it is about pattern and timing. Much like the other events unfolding across the country, these losses are not happening in isolation. They appear alongside other disruptions, crop damage, extreme weather, and shifting environmental conditions. When multiple parts of the food system are affected at once, even small changes can begin to add pressure. In the Bible, livestock loss is not an unfamiliar theme. In the book of Exodus, one of the plagues is described as affecting animals directly. A severe plague will fall on your livestock in the field. Nothing belonging to the Israelites will die. Exodus 9:3-4. The purpose of such events was not only destruction, but attention, a signal that something larger was taking place. Later, in the book of Revelation, famine is described not simply as the absence of food, but as a condition where scarcity and imbalance begin to affect everyday life. A quart of wheat for a day's wages, Revelation 6:6. This points to a time when supply exists, but access becomes strained. Looking at what is happening now, the connection is not about drawing conclusions too quickly, but about recognizing how fragile systems can become when multiple pressures build at once. Livestock losses, even if localized, contribute to a broader sense of instability when combined with other disruptions already unfolding. The question is not just why these animals are dying, but how these events fit into the larger pattern forming across the country. When food systems begin to show signs of strain, even quietly, it often signals that something deeper is shifting beneath the surface. As tension grows on the ground, attention has now turned upward. Across different parts of the United States, witnesses have reported unusual cloud formations appearing in the sky shapes that seem to resemble human-like figures, often described as angelic. These formations are not vague or quickly dismissed. In many cases, people describe clear outlines, wings, a body-like structure, even a posture that appears intentional rather than random. What makes these sightings more striking is the condition in which they appear. There are no major storms forming at the time, no thundercloud buildup, no lightning, no extreme weather patterns that would normally explain dramatic cloud shapes. Instead, these formations appear in relatively calm skies, sometimes during quiet moments of the day. Videos and photos have spread quickly online. In several clips, people can be heard reacting in real time, some expressing shock, others falling silent, and a few even beginning to pray. The emotional response is immediate. Whether the shapes are real or interpreted, the impact on those witnessing them is undeniable. From a scientific perspective, clouds can form into many shapes, depending on wind currents, temperature layers, and atmospheric pressure. The human brain is also naturally wired to recognize familiar patterns, especially faces and figures. These explanations are often used to understand why people might see meaningful shapes in the sky. However, what stands out in these reports is not just the shapes themselves, but the consistency of interpretation. Across different locations and individuals, people are describing similar forms, figures that appear watchful, present, and intentional. In the Bible, the sky is often described as a place where signs appear during significant moments. In the book of Joel, it says, "I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth." This passage connects unusual events in the sky with times of transition or warning. Throughout Scripture, angels are often described as messengers appearing at specific moments, not randomly, but with purpose. They are not always seen clearly, and their presence is sometimes more about the reaction they create than the form itself. This is where the current situation becomes difficult to ignore, because regardless of interpretation, the effect is the same. People are stopping, looking up, and asking questions they were not asking before. Are these simply natural cloud formations shaped by atmospheric conditions, or are they symbolic moments that draw attention to something deeper? The answer may not be immediate or simple, but what is clear is that when multiple people, across different places, react in similar ways to what they see in the sky, it creates a shared moment of awareness. And in times when uncertainty is already growing on the ground, even the sky begins to feel like it is part of a larger conversation, one that is still unfolding. As unusual events continue across the land and sky, attention has also turned to what lies beneath the surface, where a series of discoveries is raising new questions about the past. In different parts of the United States, reports have emerged describing structures and artifacts that appear far older and more complex than expected. Along coastal areas, divers have described underwater formations that resemble architectural designs rather than natural rock patterns. Some accounts mention arches, carved surfaces, and layouts that suggest intentional construction, not random geology. Further inland, archaeologists and explorers have reported finding ancient weapons and tools, some estimated to be thousands of years old. These objects show signs of careful craftsmanship, with shapes and markings that hint at advanced techniques for their time. In certain cases, the materials used do not match what is commonly found in the surrounding region, adding another layer of mystery. Perhaps even more striking are reports of inscriptions that resemble early Hebrew or Proto-Semitic writing. These markings, found on stone surfaces and artifacts, have drawn attention because of their similarity to ancient scripts associated with the Middle East. If confirmed, such findings would challenge long-held assumptions about historical timelines and cultural contact. In the Grand Canyon, stories have circulated for years about hidden chambers and cave systems containing unusual objects. Some accounts describe religious symbols, carved figures, and structures that do not align with known indigenous designs. While access to certain areas is restricted and official confirmations remain limited, the idea that something significant could be hidden within these formations continues to capture attention. From a scientific standpoint, each of these findings requires careful study. Natural processes can create formations that appear artificial. Artifacts can be misidentified or misunderstood without full context. Researchers emphasize the importance of evidence, verification, and controlled excavation. Yet beyond the scientific discussion, these discoveries have sparked a different kind of reflection. In the Bible, the past is not just history, it is often a record of events tied to meaning and covenant. The story of Noah, for example, describes a time when the earth was reshaped by water, leaving behind a world that had to begin again. The flood narrative suggests that entire landscapes and what existed within them could have been buried, altered, or lost. The idea of a covenant, a promise between God and humanity, is also central. Physical signs, such as altars, inscriptions, and objects, were often used to mark these moments. If remnants of such markers were to resurface, they would not only represent history, but also a connection to something much deeper. This is why these discoveries generate so much attention. They are not just about objects or structures. They are about the possibility that the ground itself may still hold traces of events and meanings that have not been fully uncovered. Whether these findings ultimately reshape historical understanding or remain unresolved, they contribute to a growing sense that the past is not as distant as it once seemed, and that, in some way, it may still be speaking into the present. When each of these events is viewed on its own, it can be explained, debated, or even dismissed. Insect swarms can be tied to environmental shifts. Storms can be linked to climate patterns. Livestock loss, ocean changes, and social tension can all be studied through separate lenses. But something changes when these events are no longer isolated. Because what is being observed now is not just a single disruption, but a combination of disruptions happening at the same time, across different parts of the world. War continues to escalate in various regions. Disease outbreaks still appear and reappear in cycles. Food systems show signs of pressure, and at the same time, many societies are experiencing visible moral and cultural division. Individually, none of these are new. History has always included conflict, illness, and hardship, but what stands out is the convergence, the way these conditions seem to be aligning within the same period, creating a broader sense of instability. This is where the concept of a composite sign becomes important. In the Bible, particularly in Matthew 24, Jesus does not describe a single event that signals a major turning point. Instead, he describes a series of conditions that would appear together. In Matthew 24:7, it says, "Nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in various places." This passage is often understood as describing a pattern rather than a moment, a set of developments that, when seen together, form a clearer picture than any one event alone. The key idea is not intensity, but frequency and overlap. War does not stop before another crisis begins. One challenge flows into the next. Systems that once operated independently begin to feel connected. Economic pressure influences food supply. Conflict affects global stability. Social division influences how people respond to both. This interconnectedness creates a different kind of tension. It is no longer about reacting to one event at a time, but about managing multiple pressures simultaneously. From a biblical perspective, this pattern is not presented as a reason for panic, but as a call for awareness. The events themselves are not the final message. They are indicators, signals that something larger may be unfolding. At the same time, interpretation varies. Some see these patterns as natural cycles, intensified by modern conditions. Others view them through a spiritual lens, connecting them to long-standing prophetic themes. What remains consistent, regardless of interpretation, is the observable reality. Multiple forms of instability are appearing together, not separately. And when that happens, people begin to shift from asking, "What is happening?" to asking a more complex question, "Why is everything happening at once?" Long before modern cities, technology, and global systems, there was a moment in history described in the Bible that carries a powerful lesson for times like these: the story of Noah. According to Genesis, Noah lived in a world that appeared normal on the surface. People continued their daily routines. They worked, built, celebrated, and planned for the future. Life moved forward without interruption. But beneath that normalcy, something deeper was taking place. Warnings were given. Noah was instructed to build an ark, not after the flood began, but long before it came. For those around him, the idea likely seemed unnecessary, even irrational. There were no visible signs of immediate danger, no rising waters, no urgency that others could clearly see. And so, life continued as usual. In Matthew 24:37-39, this moment is described again. "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man. For in the days before the flood, people were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, and they knew nothing about what would happen until the flood came and took them all away." The key detail is not the flood itself, it is the lack of awareness before it happened. People were not reacting because they did not recognize the significance of what was unfolding. The warning was present, but it was not understood. That is what makes this story relevant. It is not about predicting events or creating fear. It is about attention, about recognizing patterns, asking questions, and being aware of changes that may not seem urgent at first. Looking at the present, the connection becomes clearer. Events are happening across different areas: environmental, social, and global. Each one can be explained on its own, but together, they create a pattern that invites reflection. The lesson from Noah is simple but powerful. Awareness matters before the moment arrives, not after. It is easy to continue with routine when everything appears stable. It is harder to pause and consider that small changes, repeated over time, can lead to larger outcomes. This does not mean drawing immediate conclusions. It means paying attention, thinking carefully, and staying grounded in what is true. Because in the story of Noah, the difference was not strength or knowledge, it was awareness and response. And that same question remains today. When signs appear quietly, will they be recognized in time? If you've made it this far, take a moment to like this video, comment, "I'm watching," and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching and staying with me through this.